Hey, you. Thank you for joining me for episode number 164 of Better Regulate Than Never. Well, this is a special Halloween episode, and I don't think you can even hardly see my costume, so maybe you don't know who I am. And if you are listening, you'll have to go to the YouTube channel at least to see. But I am Life Coach Barbie. I had this whole idea of like this other kind of promotional thing I was going to do since Barbie was a movie this year and people went to it, and it was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. And I've always loved Barbie my whole life. And I thought this is the perfect costume. And I was like, oh, I was even thinking about the craziest thing where I would sit somewhere like in a coffee shop and I would have like this sign, "Get Coached by Life Coach Barbie." But I think I'm too afraid to do it. But anyway, I am going to use this costume when I do things with my grandkids this year. But anyway, so you have to come check out Life Coach Barbie and how I look in this. But this is a special Halloween episode. And the topic this week is, are you being haunted by your thoughts? And really this just has to do with anxiety, because when we're being haunted by our thoughts, it's almost always like an anxious, a fear, as something, like we're thinking about the what ifs and all the terrible things that we think about our past or our future. And all of my clients have these kinds of thoughts all the time about the past, about the future, and so does really everyone. I know I've gotten a lot better about it because I have all these tools that I can use so that I don't get caught up in that kind of thinking as much as I used to. But those thoughts never go away. We just learn how to deal with them. So I wanted to tell you kind of a different way to look at that today, because I was thinking about how much I love scary movies and books. And when I was little, I loved witches. Like I loved books about witches and I loved shows about witches, but I also was terrified of them. And I think that, if you listen to some of my other October episodes this month, we kind of talked about how facing your fears and kind of tiptoeing into that fear is a good thing. And in a normal response, or like we want to get scared to see if we can handle it and those kinds of things. Some people like that more than others. And again, if you have a lot of trauma or really scary things have actually happened to you, then, trying to see how scared you can get is probably not a good idea. But I was thinking about the witches in my young life. One of them, you would have to look these people up because these shows aren't in existence anymore. But there was a show, like a variety kid show called HR Puffin Stuff. And there was a witch on that show called Witchy Poo. And she looked really scary, but she didn't really seem very scary, I don't think. But I think she was supposed to be kind of scary, but kid friendly. And then there was the Wicked Witch of the West and the Wizard of Oz. And most of you probably know about that witch, but you can certainly look up the movie and watch and see. And I was very scared of that witch because she was so mean. And I, just couldn't get my head around, even as an adult. But as a kid, I really couldn't understand somebody being that mean. And then this character wasn't a witch, but I still just get chills thinking about this character. And it was the child catcher in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. So if you haven't seen Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, it's such an amazing show. It's one of my favorites from my childhood. But the child catcher is really scary. He looks scary and he is scary because he's so mean. So I was thinking about all of that, and I had a lot of nightmares when I still have nightmares. I have night terrors now, but I had a lot of nightmares when I was a young, like elementary age child, and I would think that witches were under my bed, and I would cry out at night thinking, I would have a dream that they were attacking me or trying to kidnap me, and then I would wake up and I would still think all this was happening. And so I thought, wouldn't it be fun if we looked at scary thoughts like we think about the monster in the closet or the monster under the bed or the witch under the bed or the whatever it is that was scaring you as a child. Because I think all children probably go through some scary time, because as your brain starts developing where you realize bad things could happen, then you start imagining bad things. Or if you've had trauma, that would make you more scared, I think, at night. And if you were allowed to watch like rated R movies when you're a child and you don't understand what's going on and you don't understand that it's not real, I could see that causing a lot of nightmares and stuff. So I wanted to think about thoughts as that scary monster under the bed or the witch or whatever used to haunt us at night, or maybe still haunts us at night. I'm not really afraid of the dark. I mean, if my husband's gone, I'm a little more afraid, but I'm still not like super afraid. But I do have these night terrors, but I'm not afraid when I go to sleep. It's just that my brain does all these crazy things and puts all these images in front of me, like somebody coming in the window or, whatever. And I feel like it's real. There was just like an explosion outside. I don't know what that was. I don't know if you heard it. Anyway, so it's also not uncommon for young people to feel like, or all people to feel like these thoughts kind of haunt them. They just keep going around and around in their mind. And they're like, what can I even do about this? And sometimes until you realize that you can take control of your thoughts, you just feel like they're happening to you and there's nothing that you can do. So the good and the bad is that our brain is like so powerful and it can create so much good and excitement and wonder in the world. And it can also create some fear, self-doubt, and anxiety. And so let's think about what can we do about these thoughts so that they aren't haunting us, or that we have a way to kind of pivot away from them haunting us. It's really important to remember that these thoughts are not reality. They're not real. Like, even if the thoughts are saying these people hate you or something bad's going to happen, that's just stories that are being made up in your mind. And because they're in our mind, it makes it seem so real, but they're just stories. And anxiety and fear is a natural feeling and a natural response to stress of all different kinds, some like heavy stress and even minor stress. And so it sometimes alerts our fight or flight system in our brain. And for some people, there are chemical imbalances that are happening that kind of set that off even more, or trauma responses that set that off more than a typical person. But we all have that alert system, which keeps us alive. And we all do get alerted in our fight, flight, freeze, fawn response sometimes. We just have to know maybe how to turn the volume down or how to get it to not derail what we're wanting to do in our life. So it's kind of like wearing these fear glasses when we don't pay attention to those thoughts and we're letting them just go crazy. We have like these fear glasses on, and everything we're seeing and everything we're thinking about is producing fear or making us feel afraid where we don't want to do anything. So what can we do about it? First of all, turn on the lights. Do you remember when you were maybe having these fears and nightmares? If you would turn on the light, or your parents would turn on the light, like the shadows that seem scary all of a sudden was like, oh, that's a coat, or that's a chair. Or turn on the light and look under the bed. Oh, there's nothing there. Turn on the light, look in the closet. Oh, there's no monsters in there. And so turning on the light with our thoughts is just like starting to pay attention to them. Many people just let their lives just be on autopilot with all these thoughts going around, and they don't realize that they can pay attention to them and do something about those just jumbling around all the time. So you're going to turn the light on by starting to pay attention to them. Start writing them down. What are they? And at first, you're just going to be curious about them. Like, what are these thoughts that are creating these fear, anxiety feelings inside of me? And just writing them down to just look at them. What does all this mean? And maybe, if you were bullied in school, or you are being bullied in school, there's some fear about that, and that has created some stories or thoughts. And we're just, maybe you're being criticized by parents, teachers, your friends, and those kinds of things are creating you to have self-doubt or fear about something. But you're just going to turn the light on and look at, what are these thoughts? What's going on? And then notice if there's any patterns. Do you happen to have thoughts around certain situations? Like maybe you have a lot of thoughts about school, but you don't feel like that when you're at home, or when you go out to the movies, or when you go to other outside of school events. It's just at school. Or is it with certain people and not other people? So just really be an investigator, and investigators have to write notes and start trying to figure out what are all the things, the patterns and the things that are going on. And then just ask yourself, are the ghosts real? Are the thoughts real? Are the monsters real? Well, we know that they're not. And especially as we get older, we realize, oh yeah, I don't know why I was afraid of that. I'm not afraid of a monster under my bed anymore. I don't even think of that anymore, because I realized that it wasn't real and that couldn't happen. And so just after you have these thoughts down, start asking yourself, is it true that I don't have any friends? Is it true that people don't like me? Is it true that my teacher is the worst? Is it true that my parent doesn't want me? Is it true? And just keep asking yourself. And almost always, they're not true. It's just a story that your brain has told you. Then talk back to your thoughts. Now, I'm not saying that you should talk out loud, especially in class or when you're in environments where people would find that to be strange, but you don't have to be a victim of your thoughts. And so you can talk to yourself in your brain and no one's going to know it. So if your brain is telling you, don't go there, people don't like you, you can say to yourself in your mind, that's not true. I do have friends. People do like me. I don't know what's going to happen in this situation, and that's okay. I have been successful there before. I'm doing great in all my classes, and that one I just need to work on. Or my parents really stressed out right now, and that's why it seems like they don't have time for me, or they don't have patience for me. So you just talk back to them. And sometimes you can say to yourself, that's my old self talking, and now I have a new idea, or I have a new way of thinking. As that investigator, as that scientist, now I'm looking at it like this. So that's another way how you can talk back to yourself if your thoughts and your brain is giving you a lot of crazy stories. You can just say, I don't believe that anymore. I'm not going to be a victim to this story or this thought anymore. So that can help you to stop letting the ghosts of your past haunt you, or the thoughts of your past, or the thoughts of your future. I have clients that are worried about, what if I don't get a good job? Or what if I don't find a life partner? Or, that's just stories that your brain is telling you because you don't know what the future holds. So you can turn to your parents, school counselors, therapists, neighbors, church leaders, coaches, life coaches. There are so many people out there that can help you just take this jumbled stories and thoughts that are in your head and start pulling them out and start looking at, oh, I think you're thinking this. What can we say back to this thought? How can we dismantle this thought, because this thought isn't even true? And we definitely need help doing that stuff. We can do a lot of that stuff on our own, but it helps if you at first get practice with somebody who can help you with it, an adult, or off and on pull those adults in to help you sort through your thoughts and try to help you get on the right track. So you have the power to face those fears and to not allow those thoughts to haunt you. And I have tools that I can teach you. There's tools in this podcast that I can teach you. And you can work with me face to face on Zoom. Or if you live in my area, even personally, if you live near me. And we can take those thoughts that are getting in the way and causing you to not do the things you want to do, or just be afraid of school or be afraid of doing anything new. And we can pull them all out, look at them, dispel them. Is that the right word? Just not let them cause any problems for you. And you can talk back to them and say, no, I'm not going to believe that anymore. And you will start creating an amazing life. I'll talk to you soon.